Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Sally Bay. In this episode, we will continue development on the university city, or the city right beside the university that encompasses the university. Um, and there will be some detail work that I'll explain in depth when they come up. But here, we're just continuing the layout of the utilities here, just bringing them all the way out to support the entire city. Double checking my intersections here. Coming up here, we have the first part of the detail work. So I will walk you through that. So here what I am doing is I'm going to add some pathways just to allow the citizens to get around some of the roads or get access to some of the mass transit options that are available. I'll add them here. Just to make it a little easier for them to get through to different options for transit. Got some posted up here, some over here. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just adding in these pathways to allow the people to move from main roads to side streets, just to allow them more walkway space in general. So that's what this part is here. It's just adding in different walkways. So here what I decided to do is I decided to revamp the flora here on this this here. So what I'm doing is I'm holding X and I'm dragging the stick, and these are just the bamboo forest, you could say. Doing that and then adding in some bushes behind it, and then adding in trees here, adjusting them to get the right size. Not quite a perfect circle, but we threw a U in there. It's called U number 1, Y-E-W, and that was to add in, to fill in the middle right there. Just adding some grassy spots. We're going to do that in the middle here as well, but just to add some depth to this area. And then here we're speeding up. Here I'm going to add in a bus line, add in some extra power, and all this bus line does is just serve to get them from the tram over to the university and then back. That's all that's serving. It's just university bus access essentially. So So what you're about to see me do is I'm going to mark that as a historical building, as I do not want it to get any taller, which means it will stay at that level and height, quote-unquote, permanently. So that's what I liked about that. So we will keep that as that, and you'll see me do that a couple of times as well. And it's pretty obvious whenever I do it. So I really like the introduction of the historical buildings. It's nice. So I am going to add in some parks around, as I am very used to having the Eden project in my cities, and I do not have that here. So I'm going to boost up the economy, or excuse me, the budget for the parks, boost that all the way up. And then here I'm going to add in a little simple pathway just to throw in some depth here to this blank space here. Get better use of the land here, kind of like a city planner, making sure that the land that's available to me is used in the best way possible. Gonna add some details in as well, just to increase the quote-unquote appeal of the area. So gonna throw in some flowering trees and some yews as well, as I really enjoy the yew tree. It's a very nice tree in my opinion. I like it. It's a large tree. It can cover up gaps and different things, which will become evident later, and you guys will see what I'm discussing. So here what I'm doing is I'm just growing the Concord County area, growing it out a little bit as well. 2 episodes ago we expanded that area, and I never actually zoned over there. I got a little carried away, and I'm trying to fill out that university zone before Concord County is done. But Concord County is going to have it's going to be a low residential or a low density area, with a little bit of high density sprinkled in, like some apartment complexes or something like that, once it gets a little further into the area. So here what I am doing is I am cutting some districts out and adding some in, or cutting the district up and adding in some variety here. So what I am doing is I'm deciding that I am going to add in an area that will be called Modern City Center. Just add some more depth to the skyscrapers that will appear here, and this small block here, super block you could say, is going to be just a full modern city center with residential, high density residential, and then you'll see me change the names to match all of the other ones. There you saw me put that as Modern City Center. I renamed it as Sally University. I did the same here, however I called it Sally University IT Park, as this area is going to be an IT park. I'm going to have a little IT cluster there. I'm going to try and keep the height kind of medium to high. Probably have one building in the corner closest to the city center, the super block. Probably going to have that as a large skyscraper, and then I'll kind of break it up. So coming up here, I'm going to look and I'm going to be like, this interchange really needs some work now that I've grown to the other side. So I'm actually going to do that here. I'm going to extend this little arterial road. I'm going to extend it out to meet up there. A little wonky angles there. Same thing there even with smoothing. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to go from the other way and kind of adjust everything, get the height looking good, and then I'm going to have to do some rather interesting things with the off-ramp and on-ramp here. So it's quite sharp, but one of the beneficial things that one of the updates a while back added was the ability to have that right there. The one-way or two-way, one parcel, I guess, highway there. One single lane highway in both directions. So I really enjoyed that being added, and it comes in handy when doing interchanges or intersections with highways. So. So I've decided that I'm going to take a bridge across here, just so that they don't have to go to the highway to get across to the university. I feel like that's a little silly, and that's just poor design, as far as city planning would go. That would just be very poor of a decision. So as you can see here, I'm trying to adjust the angles here to get the bridge to look a little bit better. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bus route and just kind of loop it through on the arterial roads, excuse me, to bring that to the university as well. Normally I would not overlap my bus stops like that. However, just because this is just a loop, it just goes, you know, one way and back the other, I have no problem doing that. So I did that, and then I decided that I didn't like the recycling center right here being so close and producing that that waste, or yeah, the waste, excuse me. So I moved it back some, double checking my angles here. I ended up not liking the way that the bridge turned out, so I adjusted it to make it look a little more even, which you guys can see. And then here, I am adjusting the density here. I'm throwing in some high density, also marking those as historical to keep them and lock them in at that height. I like that little building how it's got the step to the design there. That's a really nice feature. And then I'm throwing in some low density here. And I decided to check the noise pollution, which is a little high. It's nice to see that the trams aren't really contributing, which is nice. Running water. Before I get not reelected. It's because I forgot to give them water. Garbage was looking a little poor on collection capabilities, so I added in another recycling center over here for Concord, as I've got the single one covering the university area right now, which is doing a-okay. So here I'm gonna start to make a small little park, and it's gonna give me a great little idea. So this idea was when I was using the zoo part, or the zoo ground cover essentially, it looked kind of like a parking lot, at least in this section here. It ended up not looking quite like that where I ended up using it again, but in this little section it was nice to create a simple little park design. You know, it's not zoned as an actual park, but because of that highway section right there, I was a little limited on what I could do. But as you can see here, it looks kind of like a basic parking lot. So unfortunately I couldn't get them to go anywhere else. However, because the immense size of the U is there, I can cover up a lot of the ugliness here. So as you can see, I fill in that. You can't see that. I cut 2 of those out and do that. Kind of cover this up a little bit just to kind of cut down on the sound. Add in some tree cover. And then I go into the parks and add a couple of little picnic tables in. Can't delete that tree as that's actually part of the yard. So I decided to just run a little fence as close as I can over there just to keep little munchkins from running all over the place. But nice little simple park design there. Speed back up here. So what I'm doing here is I'm zoning some high density residential to try and get some apartment complex zoned in over here. And then as you see, I slow the timelines back down as I investigate, and then I take these little buildings out as I've got 3 matching designs practically within a good enough area of themselves to where I can kind of design a little parking lot. So that's me checking my work to see if it really does look like the way I want it to. So it does indeed look that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make a little parking lot for the apartment complex. I'm probably going to go back and change this to a different material. If I can find one that's adequate enough, I will. If not, what I'll do is I'll just end up breaking it up and putting in like a little fence or something and changing it up. Just to make it look a little bit nicer, because it's supposed to represent a parking lot. You know, there's going to be quite a few people staying in this apartment complex, this little high-rise apartment, so that's the goal. So coming up here, I decide I want to check the traffic one last time just to make sure that we're looking good, and that's where we're sitting at. But that has been all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. This has been Roar ZX Gaming, signing off.